Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're excited to have you with us today. Our topic is boosting your business, adding a store to your existing website. We understand that a lot of you already have an existing website, a blog or something like that, and you might be interested in adding a store feature to it so that you can monetize on your website and start bringing in some money in a different way. So that's what we're talking about today. And I'm joined by friends and coworkers, Braden and Jocelyn. Both are working on the product side of things. Braden specifically works on the professional services, which is a department we have that can help you get off the ground with your website, can help you take the next step forward if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And Jocelyn is our product manager for our WordPress commerce product. So both of them are very familiar with what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm excited to have both of them join us here in a minute. Before we get into the content of today's presentation, I want to talk about a couple housekeeping things. If you can hear us, find the chat bar or the Q&A bar and let us know where you're tuning in from. We always enjoy hearing where people are tuning in from. And if you have questions, there should be a Q&A section that you can drop your questions in. During the presentation, I will be turning my microphone and camera off so that I can focus on answering the questions that come in. If there are any questions that I don't know how to answer or that I think would be beneficial for the rest of the group, then I will save those for a Q&A section at the very end of the presentation. One question that we always get, and I'll answer now and probably at the end as well, this will be recorded and we will be sending out a copy of the recording to everyone that participated today. So if you have to drop out early, we will miss you, but we understand, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of everything we talk about today. If you need help or if you're having any technical issues, the best thing is to try to refresh the screen. Big Marker is the platform we're using, and that takes care of most issues. If you continue having issues, then feel free to message me privately. I believe that's an option, or drop something in the group chat, and I'll do everything I can to help you troubleshoot. So with the housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about what we'll be covering today. E-commerce and how to add it to your existing store. So we have a couple chapters, a lot of content we want to get to today. We're going to be going through at a fairly high level. We're going to give you the playbook for introducing an e-commerce store to your existing website. We're going to be starting with an introduction. What is e-commerce? What are the different elements that go into that? And what questions you should be asking to make sure that you have something worth adding to your existing site, something that will be productive and bring in a lot of money, hopefully. Chapter 2, we're going to be going into WooCommerce products and going through a tour of what the different products are that you can add, hopefully giving you some ideas on what products you can be adding to your store so that you can continue forward with this. Chapters 3 and 4 will be payments and shipping, where we'll get into the details of how to set those up and how to customize those. And we really want to just be with you on this journey, essentially, because we know that this can be a little bit overwhelming. So we're going to walk you through specifically how to set those up for you. And then chapter 5 will be testing your store. Once everything's set up, once everything's configured and customized, what tests you can run and how you can understand what your customer's experience will be, and how you can make sure that everything is running smoothly so that when you do have customers visiting you, everything runs smoothly for them. And then chapter 6 is promoting and marketing your store, how to get more traffic, how to get more visitors, and that obviously leads to more conversions and more sales. And then chapter 7 is a live demo where we will actually be going into the product and walking you through creating your first product. So a lot to cover. I'm very excited. Please ask the questions that you have, and we'll do the best we can to answer them as we go along. And with that, Braden and Jocelyn, take it away.
Thanks so much, Devin, for that introduction. So hi, y'all. I'm Jocelyn. I've been with Bluehost for just over 10 years. And as Devin mentioned, I do product management with a focus on WordPress commerce. And I'm joined here with Braden, who I'm excited to have be on this journey with me and help me walk through all these things. So Braden, why don't you give us a little snippet about yourself?
Of course. So my name is Braden Hansley. A large part of my career I hail from the professional services side of the house. Currently, I am a product manager for professional services, but previously before this, was helping customers with some of the website designs and providing some solutions similar to what we're going to talk about today to really help them overcome a lot of that. So very happy to be here. I want to thank you too for the opportunity. So excited to chop it up and get into some of these points that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here with us. So the first thing that we want to dive into is why you should add a store. So Braden, I know that you've helped a lot of customers when making this decision and when they want to expand their store. What are the main reasons users should add a store to their site?
Yeah, great question. Realistically, there are a bunch of different reasons as to why someone should get online and start selling products from their website or from a subdomain of their website, just something online. Some of these are obviously, it's a way to increase your business revenue, to be able to afford to do other things or expand your business. Maybe there might be more problems that you want to solve with your e-commerce store. Having that revenue to generate more income, to be able to put towards some of those things that you want to do and scale towards helps. Really the convenience too. The world that we live in is really customer centric and customer based. So having a store allows you to do business with your customers 24/7. So when you're not around, maybe you're spending time with a family, or maybe you are doing a hobby, your website's there to do business for you, to help those customers, to provide the information that it needs. Lower costs as well when you run an e-commerce store. And we saw this pretty prominently with the pandemic for some of the businesses that couldn't afford to operate or really take that hit. They had to close shop. And a lot of those businesses, they didn't have a website. They had no way to be able to expand that revenue stream online to where when they could no longer operate their brick and mortar location, didn't have something to fall back on. So it gives you that ability to not only create that stability for yourself for that business, but also allows you to kind of save on those things like not having to pay rent or, you know, whatever some of those micro costs might be for operating brick and mortar. Another extremely important piece, because this will actually factor into the customer experience that you provide and you give, is really it allows you to collect data on some of the customers, spot trends. Maybe there's a problem in which you're solving with one of your products that you put out, or maybe customers love your products. You know, we see this a lot with businesses like Yelp or Facebook or Google, like with reviews, kind of like that honor system, or hey, here's my experience. All that's made possible through the collection of data, customers providing reviews based off of some of the data in which, you know, they're taking in from their experiences. So, honestly, stores and adding one, you have to in this climate. So there's probably way more reasons as to why you should add a store to your website. Not going to get into that, but definitely it's something that is necessary in today's market.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think when you make that decision to make the leap into adding a store online, it's important for you to find the perfect product for your site and for your store. So the first thing that you need to do is decide on what products you want to sell and focus in on those. If you add too many products of too many different types, it's going to be really difficult for you to effectively target your audience and stand out from your competitors. And so with that, you know, you need to research your target audience, do market research, understand needs and preferences of your target users. There's a lot of tools available like Google Trends, Amazon bestsellers, or social media platforms to see what's trending and what's in high demand. Kind of when you do that, it all kind of comes back to your own skills and talents as well, I think. So, you know, maybe if you are an artist doing tutorials on how to do watercolor or acrylic, and you have people who come to your website because they love your painting, but they don't want to paint themselves, right? Like that's already your talent. That's already a niche that you have. And so you can expand that to selling maybe digital prints or, you know, any paintings that you do, or even starting courses online. It's important to check out the competition to see what products they're selling and how they're marketing them, and see what gaps there may be in the market to see where you can offer something unique and valuable to your customer and what the problem you're solving is there. Consider the cost of producing or sourcing your product and figure out your profit margins. Obviously, products with a higher profit margin are going to perform better, and especially when they have a low cost of production. And then test the market before investing in a large inventory. Get a small number of products, do some testing on the products, use customer feedback, ask relatives or best friends on how that product is, and refine your marketing strategy based on those products. So there's a lot of other things to do, but I think that these are some really important first steps anytime you're trying to expand your site into an online store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would totally agree. And to elaborate on that further, once you actually get to that point where you're ready to create products and you're ready to solve those problems, and you are ready to have that functionality in your website, go digital. The e-commerce functionality is actually built up of a few different components that make that possible. So when you create your products, there are things in the background that make these products purchasable or viewable. And some of the WooCommerce pages that get created when you go to install it that make those things possible is like a cart, a checkout, my account page, shop, privacy policy, or the refund and returns policy. Now, pieces of those are going to be more vital to actually conducting the business and checking out and buying the products. And others will serve as more of a protection for not only the business, but customers and the way that their data might be handled, or maybe just any other general policy. But in tandem with that, too, there are other pages that get built alongside shop pages. So, for example, like an about, a contact, an FAQ. In today's climate, using Amazon as an example, if you're anything like me, I go to Amazon and I buy a product, but before I buy the product, I look at the review system. So really, it's more so about instilling faith in your faith about yourself for your clients and showing that, hey, there is a reason to trust why this product's going to help solve my problem. So that's where some of these other pages come in on top of the communication aspect. So there are a whole bunch of different things working behind the scenes to really kind of make that experience possible and be able to sell online. But
yeah,
I would assume. I'm sorry.
I was going to say you're absolutely right. And some of these pages might already be created, right? Like you might already have a contact or an about section on your site, but you may not want to be contacted at the same email address, right, for your site. Then from your store, you might want to have like a customer service at or other things like that. So it's important to think about what pages are essential to the type of store that you're creating.
Exactly.
So it leads us into creating a store strategy. So here, I'll leave this up for a second. I'm not going to read all of these out loud, but it's really important that as you're getting started, that you have a really solid foundation of the goals of your store, the problems you're trying to solve, what type of products are you going to sell, and why are you solving them, any sort of pricing strategy, the availability of your products. So take a screenshot, take a picture. Again, this will be sent out after, but and feel free to add to this, expand to this, any other questions that you might have that you feel like are important to list. This is not an extensive, comprehensive list, but somewhere to get you started on going. So with that, we'll dive into chapter 2. We're talking about products and WooCommerce products. And the first thing that's important to really understand, I think, about products when you're thinking of how you want to start your store is understanding the anatomy of the product. So Braden, why don't you go ahead and dive into this?
Yeah, of course. So with every product that you go to purchase online or might have even seen online, there is going to always be a consistent source of information that those products are probably going to have. In this case, it's going to be things like a product name, a price. It's the snippet of information that you read when you actually stumble upon that product's page, as well as the thing that probably brought you to that page, the product image, and then the way that you probably found that product through categories and the way that it was organized. And then, of course, if you're looking to find out or understand a little bit more about that product, you look at bits of information such as like the full product description to really kind of paint that picture for you as to what it's about. But in terms of the anatomy of the actual product itself, these are pretty much what you're going to see consistently across the board regardless of the product type or I guess what problem you're trying to solve.
Yep, that's right. And all of these are built in to WooCommerce. And so when you're creating the product, and we'll show you that in a bit, it's a form that you fill out to be able to add all of that content and information plus more. So Braden, I know that WooCommerce, there's a bunch of different types of products that exist in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And WooCommerce has a set of different product types that by default, they allow you to sell without any extensions. So with these, when you were setting things up for customers, what was the most common type of product that you would see created over and over again?
Yeah, great question. Really, I'd say probably a simple product. So kind of the one-on-ones, if you will. This is a product that's not going to really have any variations. So like your shirts that might come in different sizes or colors. These are simply products where, hey, I might have previously owned it. We'll think of like video games, for example. And someone just wants to buy it off me. So it's something as simple as creating the product, adding that information, and then being able to instill that faith in the consumer to want to actually buy that product from you. So, and this is actually done in multiple different ways. There's a bunch of different product types. As we see here off this list, this scratches the surface even. We have simple products. This could be physical, or it could actually be downloadable or digital. We see here we have digital products and virtual. And this one's actually probably the most common that you're going to see day to day. And that's going to be a variable product like your shirts, your clothing, things that are going to be at the root consistent, but might have variations to it, like patterns, colors, sizes even. And then this has been pretty huge too on social media that we've seen. And that's going to be your external or affiliate products. So for some of the influencers that you might stumble across every now and again, they might be paid or promoted to, or maybe they just actually really love a product at its core and they want to talk about it more and give it the visibility that it wants. These are where affiliate marketing come into play. That's a whole different topic. Probably save it for another day. But you have the ability to essentially redirect customers through URLs that'll give them credit for that sale, or group products as well. So think of it as like bundles. But even not listed too, you have service-based appointments or calendar items, classes that you had mentioned earlier too. In this day and age, there's a whole ton of different products. It's really kind of just finding about that problem you're trying to solve or what you want to do and go for it.
And going back to what products you want to sell and why, to determine which of these is going to make the most sense for you. And again, like Braden mentioned, these are all just out of the box. There's certainly plenty more product types that you can create that do typically require a WordPress plugin or extension to your site in order to add those. So few different product creation tips, because the products are the meat of your store. As you're creating your products, remember who your target audience is before creating your product description. Think about how you should speak to them. My dogs are sorry, they're going crazy. Can you hear them, Braden? They're going nuts.
That's okay. I have one that I'm surprised.
They're joining the party. So who the product is for, the product's basic details, why this product is useful or better than the competition. Why would someone use this product? How does it work? Where would someone use the product? When you format your product description, if you remember, there was two different types of product description. You have your short description and your long description. Really reserve your short description for something that's really short and enticing to grab the customer's attention. If needed, add bullet points for product specs so customers can quickly find that information or the most exciting or the top features. And then reserve the product description down below for more detailed information. And as you create that, be creative with it. I mean, go in and write a backstory for your product. How did you come up with it? Why do people love it? Include stories or videos or social proof, any FAQ for that product if necessary. And then one thing that I think is really important is that you're measuring the success of the product descriptions and to see how you are writing them or how they change can impact your conversion rate if it improves any organic search rankings. If you're seeing a decrease of cart abandonment, social sharing, you can A/B test some product descriptions, have something that's kind of similar, write one way and write one the other, and see what's performing better. So just a few tips to get you started on writing that first product. A lot of store settings and configurations, huh?
Yeah. So when you have something that could essentially work for you, obviously I mentioned earlier, your website, your store is there to do business with, its audience, even when you're not, it works for you 24/7. So to have a tool that powerful, there comes with it some settings and things that you have to automate to really kind of help you. Really kind of just fine tune that automation. So some of those things that you might see in WooCommerce when you go to set it up, that are really going to be privy to the whole selling your products that you have, are going to really be honing in on your locations as to where you might be selling, who your target audience is, where they might be coming from. Also super important, what currency are you trying to advertise in? Obviously, if I am in the US and my customer base is here, but I'm using a different currency symbol to represent product prices, doesn't really make sense. Also taxes too, when configuring taxes, that's very, very important. Although we're not going to go too deep into that in today's talk, it's something extremely important to keep in mind. Also, hey, do you want to do it manual? Do you want it to be automated, as there are a few solutions in WooCommerce or in the WordPress ecosystem that allow you to automate that? But definitely you want to talk with a tax professional when you go to cross that bridge. But also it allows you to set up some things such as measurements, reviews, product ratings, even customer accounts. If you wanted to archive some information like downloads or order history, that stuff's super important. I know a lot of us probably have accounts with pretty popular big brand names, your Targets, your Amazons. Having that customer account too is a great way to have a return customer come back and continue to do business with you.
So this leads us into our section on payments here. So the most important thing about payments is that you offer multiple payment options. Mm-hmm. It may seem a little bit counterintuitive. Maybe I love PayPal so much and I only want to accept payments in PayPal. But my users, my customers, they may not want to pay me in PayPal. So by offering multiple payment options, and I'm sure you guys have seen it everywhere, you're going to attract a wider range of customers, right, who prefer the different payment methods. Your abandoned cart is going to shrink. You're going to reduce the risk there. Your conversion rates and sales will go up, and the customer satisfaction that you have will also increase as well, because you're providing flexibility and convenience. Brayden and I were laughing the other day because we both in the last week did this. I had my cart loaded. I was ready to go. I'm in my basement and I go to check out and there's no Apple Pay available. And my wallet was on my main floor and I was too lazy to go get it. So I didn't buy it, right? But if that shop had offered me that Apple Pay where I could just double click and do it, it would have made the sale. And especially if you think about the digital transformation that we've gone through and the technology that we have, most online shopping is on mobile devices through younger generations. So it's extremely important that you are offering multiple payment options that cater to a wide audience.
So some of the popular payment options that you will see really, I guess, commonly in the consumer market, and you know what, it might be subjective depending upon who you're talking about, as with the difference in generations. Maybe I'm using my mobile heavy, maybe I got into the payment gateway space before mobile was really a beast of its own. You're going to see your PayPals, your Stripes, your Squares, but in terms of what WooCommerce can provide for you, it'll be that plus the ability to do credit and debit cards straight from your website. Maybe your bank or your financial institution. I know that usually authorized.net's pretty popular in that space. Or, hey, depending upon what you do, too, Venmo, Apple Pay. WooCommerce also has the ability to do a buy now, pay later payment gateway, which is extremely popular, including bank transfers and cash on delivery. Bank transfers, in my experience, hasn't been used as commonly, especially with small to medium-sized businesses, kind of just getting started. The big three that I've always kind of talked about was PayPal, Stripe, and Square when initially out of the gate, just setting up your store. But as your business scales and grows, obviously your needs they're never going to remain the same. It's always going to change. So there are a ton of different options to really kind of help you meet whatever need you might have at that time, because no business is going to be small forever. You're always going to grow.
And I think with that too, a lot of the extensions that are available, the plugins that are available, for example, the one that we provide our customers who purchase our commerce product, it's a PayPal solution, but it's not just PayPal. You're able to accept credit and debit card payments, PayPal. You can include the buy now, pay later option with that. And then there's a lot of other options that are available based on what you have set up in your PayPal merchant account. And so a lot of these extensions provide you with the ability to just out of the gate, go ahead and add those to your store.
And what's cool about that is, for the longest time, a lot of the payment gateways, specifically I think it was the first iteration of the PayPal payment gateway, didn't allow you to really kind of check out using a credit or debit card straight from it. As a consumer, I had to log into my PayPal account after clicking on a button and then kind of conduct. So for those of us like myself that might have small attention spans, it's good to know that, one, I could use something that I prefer to use or something that I'm comfortable to use. And two, we're kind of cutting out the middleman and just being able to check out and move on with our lives.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's very popular these days.
Yep. So with that, it's important for you to create a payment strategy as well. With that, to start, consider the target audience of your store and the payment options they prefer. Research and compare fees of each of the payment options. Ensure that the payment options you provide are available to the countries you're selling in. For example, PayPal may not be available in all countries that you want to sell in. So it's important that you understand where those payment providers go. And with that, we created a list here on this next slide. Again, I'm not going to read them all out loud, but it's important that you understand your payment strategy, what you want to accept, what will be used, how it's going to handle international transactions, what does your target audience prefer, what payment method they prefer, does it offer any customizations such as one-click checkout or anything like that. So take a moment, we'll leave it up for a second, grab a screenshot or a picture, and hopefully these questions and this information helps you kind of create your payment strategy when you're deciding on which payment processors to add to your store. This brings us to the next important thing, shipping, right? We have to ship products if we have physical products to ship. There are some products such as ebooks or maybe it's a music, sheet of music that don't have any shipping and you don't need to worry about that digital download type stuff. But for other products, you need to consider how you're going to ship and fulfill them. So there's a few different options you have. There's flat rate shipping where you can say, if I'm in the United States, I will charge $5 every time I ship something that the customer will pay for anytime it's within the United States. And maybe I can say for international, maybe I sell to US and Canada, I can charge $10 to ship to Canada. You can also connect to live carrier rates. And upcoming in our series, we're going to be joined by one of our partners, Shippo, who's going to talk about shipping and that integration. The live carrier rates, what's great about that is that customers can choose, do I want to pay more to get my product here faster? Do I have a preferred carrier? Maybe I want to choose USPS versus UPS if you're in the United States. The downfall is that sometimes those live carrier rates can be more expensive than those flat rate shippings. And so it's important for you to understand your products and the weight of your products and what those rates are as you're creating these strategies. Another option is free shipping. And with free shipping, there's a lot of options there as well. You can do free shipping on all products in your store, free shipping on orders over $50, free shipping when you buy a certain product. And so that's a really good way to increase the average order value of the cart. If you're seeing that your AOV in your store is around $30 and you want to incentivize people to add more to the cart, you can say, hey, free shipping when your order is worth $40, $50 or more, to try to incentivize people to add more to their cart. There's also a really popular option, which is the buy online, pick up in store, which also that also helps with your brand awareness and visibility, because not only are people shopping online, then they're going to come to your store and there's a chance they may pick up something in your store as well. For international shipping, it's important that you choose carriers who can ship to the countries that you sell in, provide accurate information on customs to avoid, we're hidden by our graphic there, but to avoid any delays or issues when it comes to customs. If there's any live carrier rates through international shipping, if you want to do free shipping internationally, and then going back to if you do buy online and pick up in store, you're going to need to be aware of the international shipping. So you're not providing options if maybe somebody is in Canada, but you're based, in the US, maybe too far away, or you're across the sea. Those kind of get a little bit awkward. So as you see, they kind of all integrate together. But it's really important to kind of hash out those strategies ahead of time.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. Especially leveraging, free shipping as a tactic to, really get your customers to, go through with the sale. The last thing that you want is obviously for them to second guess that. And then, then you just lost the customer on a perfectly good product that would have helped them. So, regardless of those that you pick, whether it be the live rates or the flat rates, there's always going to be a little bit of a tedious process in it, but you're going to hit these different stages in that shipping and logistics process. And really it's going to be 4 main ones: the labeling, packaging, tracking, and the actual fulfillment of sending it out. These are all important because you got to make sure that, one, you were getting this package to where it needs to go. Depending upon obviously the provider that you're using to ship, one, you need to be able to track where that package is. Hey, has it got delivered to my customer? I know with some options too, some of the providers also will take a picture, or they might provide a tracking code for you to actually see what shipping centers it's hit. So I could tell if, it still hasn't left its, where it came from, or, maybe, hey, it made its way to the state that I'm in, and then it's just only a few days away from me. It gives you the ability to kind of track with it. And then, of course, the fulfillment process as well, making sure that it's going to get to where you need it to go. It's going to get to where you need it to go on time, because obviously you don't want to ship something out and then give something or someone the incorrect amount or measurement of time, just because, like myself, I have to prep for these things ahead of time. And you just got to make sure that you're going to be where you are. Otherwise, you're going to then have to deal with the hassle of trying to either go to the actual shipping center and then getting it manually, or having them go through the process of trying to ship it again the next day. I myself have had to do that once when they leave the postcard. We'll try again tomorrow. So it can be a little bit of a pain. But these are the 4 steps really that you're going to see within that actual shipping and logistic journey.
Yep. And there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of companies who you can partner with to have custom packaging created for your store that has your brand name on it, custom envelopes, custom, and when you're first starting, maybe you don't need all that customization, and it's something that you can look forward to. Or a lot of drop shippers will do white labeled packaging and labels. So there's a lot to go into it, and which kind of brings us to talking about, I guess before here I had my slides reversed. Refunds and returns are crucial in your shipping and fulfillment. So number 1, have a clear and concise return policy. Let customers know ahead of time. Make it really easy for them to find how they return items to you, and what that policy is. An option is for you to provide hassle-free return process for the customers. Maybe you send them a label to ship it back, or I've seen some companies who, when you purchase something, they just include a return label just in case you need it, right? And so totally up to you there. Offer free returns to incentivize customer loyalty goes along with that. Print those out, email those over, just do whatever you can. But whatever you decide, just make sure it's clear and concise, and that it makes sense for your customers and for your business. If you're going to be giving them free shipping to get a $20 item, but you're going to charge $10 on the return, that's not really a great experience for your users. They might keep it, but you're going to lose that loyalty, right? And kind of that brand recognition and name that you really want to establish for yourself. Which these then go ahead and lead into what I was going to say is the strategy.
Mm-hmm. So really, when it comes to the shipping strategy, you have to keep a few different things in mind. It's really important too to kind of have an idea of what you want to do and what's feasible, within your area, within your business. Also too, keep in mind, hey, what are your competitors doing? This is probably the most important is, what's the general voice or tone of, the consumer base? What do you see online? What do you read? And then plan around that, plan according, because you want to make sure that you game plan this the best, just to make sure that one, it provides the best customer experience, because our customers are everything. Without your customers, you're not going to have an ability to remain sustainable with your business and be able to kind of scale it and offer more solutions to your customers. The second piece is making sure that it's feasible financially, and that it makes the most sense. There's no reason as to why, if I'm selling maybe something that I built myself for $4 or $5, why would I want to offer maybe, a live rate, next day air? Although there might be a use case for it, I don't think sometimes, everyone's going to be willing or want to pay, $30 to get a $5 item. So there's a ton of different things to keep in mind when going over your strategy. So just make sure that you take the approach that works best for you, and that you've thought through pretty much every scenario that you can, using maybe some of these as questions to ask yourself, hey, what makes sense? So I definitely encourage everyone to take a screenshot and really kind of reflect and refine what it is that makes the most sense to you for a shipping strategy.
Yeah, I think even one call out, as we were talking yesterday. So I'm in Utah, and you can't have alcohol shipped to Utah, right? So if there's things like that you really need to make sure that you're aware of, that
Mm-hmm.
if you have something like that on your online store, you wouldn't be able to ship it to Utah. I could purchase it, I could send it to my mother-in-law in Nevada, but I can't ship it to myself. Right.
Yeah,
So,
I had no idea.
Make sure you're just checking your products and make sure where you're shipping and selling to, that you are in regulations and that you are following any laws that you need to abide by for that.
So that's actually going to get us into the next important point to talk about. And that is, all right, I have got my store going. I am in business. Essentially, we've selected a payment option. I figured out, hey, I want to do flat rate. So we're to this point, and I feel like my store is going to work, but I'm just not sure yet. So we definitely want to talk about testing your store and how important it is to make sure it works. So in terms of testing your store and making sure that it works, what's a typical process that you've seen for really just making sure that you're not going to have any head scratches later when your customers are reaching out to you saying, hey, this is broken, I can't buy, and then you just lost an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes behind testing, and there's a few bullet points here, but as a product manager, one thing that I'm responsible for is testing my products a lot and having test cases that have been built out. So one thing that I strongly suggest that you do is that as you're making customizations and configurations that are a little bit outside of the box, is that you're taking note of those. And so you can return to them later and make sure that they are accounted for. You'll want to define your test scenarios. So that just makes sure that you're covering all your bases. If you have a team that's helping you test, assign the test cases out based on area of your product. And then you're going to go to your test execution, where you're going to go through your test scenarios and report, and then you retest and sign off and test and test and test and test. And ongoing testing is always important, especially with software updates and things like that. You always want to make sure that your site and your store are compatible. And so I just threw together a quick overview of what something might look like, in Google Docs. So you have your scenario of add the product to the cart. Your objective is to make sure that a customer can successfully add products to their cart. Your preconditions are you need products that are in your catalog. And then you list out the steps, the replication steps, because ideally the goal would be is if Braden has never seen my store or has never seen this product, I could hand it to him and I could say, Braden, can you test this thing? I'm assigning you this. And he could follow those steps and be able to see the expected result that I have listed here and know whether or not that test passed or failed, right? Make a quick drop down, choose one that it is. If it passes, you probably don't need to write any notes. If it fails, make sure you write why it failed and replication steps, and then make the changes that you need and test again. And don't be afraid to get more eyes or more people that are there to test for you, or testing on all different browsers, testing from a mobile device, testing from the computer. And you can format this however you want. A lot of people will do user stories of given, when, then, and things like that to build these out. So just to give you an idea of how you can put the testing together. So same thing, feel free to take a screenshot, ask yourselves questions about the things that you care about, the things that you want to test when you're creating your store. Create your full strategy, group things together by area. Maybe it's cart, maybe it's shop, maybe it's checkout, digital products. However you do those, go ahead and take a screenshot and throw that together. So with that, I think that takes us into our next chapter of promoting and marketing your store.
I think so. Both important.
Very important. When you go live and you're feeling ready, there's a lot that you can do to promote and market your store that you probably already are doing if you already have a successful site. So number one, continue to do those things. Continue building your email list, optimize for SEO, especially with your product descriptions and your images. Make sure you're doing things like including alt text in all of the images. Creating deals and promotions, email marketing campaigns. Our store is now live to your customer base. Get them excited, offer them a promotion, 15% off. Start thinking about paid advertising and connecting to other sales channels. So maybe adding your products to the Facebook marketplace, selling on Instagram, selling on Etsy. There's a lot of connections that you can make there. And in the future, we're going to have a deep dive on promoting and marketing your store. We're going to have some other folks join us to walk through us, which again, I'm really excited about that deep dive as well. So again, just a few questions you can ask yourself to create your marketing strategy. Is there anything related to marketing, promoting strategies, Braden, that you wanted to chime in on?
Really, I can't stress this enough. In terms of the customer sentiment and really kind of just seeing what's trending, even if you don't use social media, just create an account. It could be blank information, but just go see what type of things are being advertised. Go look at what some of your competitors are doing and just kind of get a feel for, what people want and what works best. And every product type, every service is going to have maybe a different type of marketing strategy that works best, but you have to first understand kind of what's available to you before you can kind of dive right in. So if there's one thing that I could suggest, it's, go learn a little bit from what's out there with customers that, might be buying these things. There's definitely a lot to learn. And mind you, it's ever changing. So there's no one right answer. It'll change eventually.
Yep. There's new strategies and new tools available all the time. So now the part that I'm really excited for, we've gone over a ton of information and hopefully we've been able to provide you with a really good foundation to get you started, to get your get your gears going, start thinking about some homework or some steps that you might need to do for any research and thinking about it. And now that we've gone through all this, I'm going to hand it over to Braden, and he's going to walk us through creating that first product, implementing a lot of the strategies we've discussed. So Braden, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and get everything pulled up here. So for the sake of this, just to kind of give everyone a little bit of background as to where we are. Right now, we are going to get ready to actually install the functionality that you will need to make selling online actually possible. For the sake of this, we already have a few products already created, and we're going to get to this step, but we got to make sure that if I don't already have these things installed, that baseline of functionality, hey, I need to go ahead and get that installed. Mind you, WooCommerce is what we're actually using for our system. It's free, and there really isn't any downside. In terms of a few callouts, though, there is one thing that I want to make, and that is going to be to download WooCommerce, make sure that you are using PHP version 7.4 and that you are on a recent version of WordPress 5.9, but at least 5.6. That way, one, your website's going to be sustainable as you build it. You don't have any technical glitches that happen in the future, but also just make sure that your customers aren't going to have any technical glitches as well. So here's our site. We want to add a store to this, and then we want to change our store based on some of the things that we really want to focus on, our goals, our focuses. And for here, we have a recipe blog that is composed of some scrumptious recipes. I will admit too, after researching and adding some of these recipes, I am fairly confident that I could probably make a few drinks there, like a Manhattan. But diving in, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's simple. Just make sure that you're actually logged into the dashboard itself. From there, what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to navigate to plugins, add new. So we'll go ahead and add a new plugin here. From there, top right-hand corner, go ahead and search WooCommerce. Mind you, there are going to be probably thousands of different WooCommerce related extensions or things that might be relevant. So just make sure that you're typing in WooCommerce and you are going to click on the right one. So here we have it already active, installed and active. You can tell it's the right one because it's going to have 5+ million active installations, as well as developed by Automatic. So go ahead and you're going to want to install this, activate it, and then from there, it's going to actually add, and then boom, that's step one. Now you could actually sell directly from your website. In that regard, there are going to be a few more steps that you got to take, and that is one, making sure that it set up the pages for you correctly. So in this case, what you'll see now after it's installed is it should have installed some of the base level pages that we touched on in the beginning of this. Some of those things in this case are going to be like your policies, but most importantly, your shop page, your cart, your checkout, as well as privacy policy. And then anything else on top of that is probably going to be something that you already had in there before. But those are going to be the main pages that WooCommerce will create you, in which they'll all serve a purpose. It is going to inherit your theme style settings. So depending upon what your theme is set to, it'll use that. So getting into it, creating the first product, we're ready to go. We're ready to create and get selling. In this case, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and navigate over to your products tab and add new. From there, it's going to take you directly into the place in which you're going to be able to do just that and add the content that you want. So from there, what I want to go ahead and do is I want to, mind you, this is a recipe blog. I want to stay true to that. In fact, some of the products that you might have saw a little earlier on my screen, I want another seasoning. So for here, I already have pre-formatted information that I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste, but the anatomy of the product that we talked about earlier is going to remain the same. What I need here is a product name. I'm going to need a product description. So you might have to do a little legwork before you go ahead and get started actually creating your product, which is totally okay, but they're going to be necessary to this. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in my product description that I already have pre-created for my Cajun boil seasoning that we're going to be adding here, or spice blend. From there, in this section, I'm going to go ahead and add my product short description. And then some of the most important pieces here. So it is going to be a simple product, but we see here some of the other product types that we were talking about too. And if you have it set up, we're using YITH in this one. You could also sell gift cards as well. Here, I'm going to leave all this untouched because this is going to be a physical product, but I'm going to go ahead and set some of those anatomy related items here. So price, we'll have it be $12.99. Sale price here, if I wanted to, maybe it's regularly $12.99, but hey, for the next week, I want it to be $10. I could add that here. Everything else there is going to be okay. If you wanted to actually manage stock or SKU, you have that available to you. Really a whole bunch of different options, especially more prevalent for some of those other product types that we were talking about earlier. From there, the other important pieces to my product that I am getting ready to create here is the product image. I'm going to go ahead and recycle one of the other Spice images that we have here, but this is going to be specific to what people are going to see. So think of it as if you've ever used Amazon or Target or Best Buy or bought a product online. This is typically going to be the first product that you see or that's advertised to you. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and select that. And if you do have a few other images that might be relevant to it, different angles, different scenery, depending upon what you're selling to. I've seen also like sizing charts for shirts for those that want that information available to them. You could actually do a similar process there, add the images, and then they will actually associate to this product too. But this is going to be the meat and potatoes, the key visual for your product. And then we had talked about this a little earlier too. But the categorizing, this is important too, especially right from the get-go. If you don't want to undo or kind of create a little bit of chaos later down the line when this shop kind of grows for you, you want to make sure that you're organizing it in a fashion that makes the most sense to your consumer. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add or categorize this as a spice blend. And then in here for my tags, I will go ahead and add Cajun. Maybe I will add spicy, just some phrases, key phrases that you might use to really kind of describe what you are creating here. So we have it categorized. We have some tags set up. All that's next. Now, mind you, there's more that you could do in terms of, optimizing it for SEO or things of that nature. But for the most part, hey, we have everything in here that's going to give us the ability right now to go ahead and sell this. In this case, might also add Cajun boil seasoning. I'm going to go ahead and publish it. So when I publish it, we will actually see now, after it publishes, that is going to be available in our store. So right now, I can go to the front of site and buy it. So let's go ahead and do that. I am going to go to the same tab that we had before. In it, this is our first iteration of the site. This is pre-WooCommerce. Now, fast forwarding a little bit based off of after WooCommerce and some of those kind of key thoughts that you had left us with, those question marks that we were screenshotting earlier. What am I looking to accomplish with that? Well, that's where this can kind of come into play and transforming it just from a simple recipe blog to now I have a recipe blog in it intertwined with some type of shopping experience in which I could sell my products from. And you see here, it's a completely different transformation. I have more things that'll help my customers engage. I can stay connected with my brand awareness. Heck, I even have here something that really grab the user's attention for a call to action here to get shopping. Obviously, free shipping here that you had touched on earlier too is could be used as a marketing opportunity here as well, just to get over that initial curve. And you could add those products that we had just created to the front of your site too. So you can connect everything here. It's no longer just a recipe blog, but it's also a recipe blog and store for the products that I want to sell and the problems that I want to solve. And you know what? There are other options here too to keep a note. If you go to WooCommerce and you go to home, it's going to provide you an onboarding experience in which you can kind of follow along step by step. Here we have a few already taken care of, but really it's the store details. Those store details are going to be pretty much the address and all that information to you, adding the products and then setting up the payments. We had touched on the payments earlier. There's a ton of different options. It's really just going to be what works best for you. But that is how.
Going back to that, I'm cutting you off. Is that Bluehost also has our onboarding setup section as well that helps walk through some of those things, configuring your payment, your shipping, taxes, store information, and other things like that. So that's just on the home dashboard. And when you have any of our commerce products, and here very soon within the next month, anytime you install WooCommerce, there's going to be additional features that are available to you through the Bluehost home tab, where you'll have additional access. So like the plugins that we're using for our shipping, the plugins we're using for our payments, and other things like that. So there's walkthrough here as well. And depending on your host, they may have their own onboarding and setup flow too. So sorry, I cut you off, but I gotta put a marker on that.
Oh no, honestly, it's warranted. So, but I mean, that's it. Just goes to show that there's a bunch of solutions out there, and right now you have tools such as WooCommerce that makes it easy. WooCommerce and WordPress that make it easy to start selling online, and really your imagination and what problems that you're looking to solve for customers. That's going to be the extent of it. If you dream big, odds are you're going to be able to meet that with something that is going to be just as impactful to a customer base. So, in a nutshell, for the most part, that is it. But yeah, businesses grow over time. Things are probably going to change. So the store that I built, my site right now, as it stands, it's not probably going to be the same a year from now, 2 years from now. It's going to be filled with more content. Maybe there's a different focus that I want. Maybe I have a whole bunch of orders that go through my store. The point is technology is ever changing. Your store is going to do it with you, but this is you taking that next step to take something that might just be a hobby and turn it into something that's going to be a hobby plus business that you're passionate about. So I love it.
Awesome. I do too. And I think with that, be patient. It does take time for you to get noticed. It takes time for the SEO to kick in. It takes time. And really the time that it takes for your business to succeed is the time that you put into it with putting together and those thoughts ahead of time, building your foundations and really making sure that you're getting what you want out of your site and that you're working with it to make sure that you're delivering with, for your customers as well. You'll learn, you'll grow, you'll evolve, and there's nothing wrong with changing or, testing, doing trials. Yeah. So, I think that concludes it. So thank you guys all for being here. And I think with that, we'll head over to the FAQ part of the webinar. Q&A.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. That was awesome. I really appreciate Jocelyn and Braden for walking us through all that. And we have a couple questions. We're getting pretty close on time, but y'all had a bunch of great questions, so I want to try to get through them as quickly as possible. There's a handful. Let me just moderate some of these. Shelly Craig asked about drop shipping companies. So Braden or Jocelyn, I don't know if one of you wants to give us a little bit of the rundown on drop shipping. To answer your question, Shelly, Bluehost doesn't have anything directly, but you can use some plugins and things like that. So Jocelyn or Braden, does one of you want to take that to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead and elaborate on that one a little bit more. Kind of as you had mentioned, Bluehost doesn't have any opportunities there for drop shipping. Neither does professional services. You do have the opportunity, though, to integrate drop shipping into WooCommerce. It's just a little bit more complex. I have seen people, or I've seen some sites where they'll use WooCommerce to integrate maybe Alibaba or one of those other bigger providers. Really, it's going to vary in terms of who you go through for drop shipping, just because they might have their own internal solution, as well as what's available to you. So because drop shipping is a little bit of it's pretty big in terms of being weighted in the store, I would just make sure that you can ask around and have an idea of who you want to go through before you start looking into it.
Awesome. That's perfect. Jocelyn, I know that you're excited to answer this question. What is SEO? Looks like you're currently muted, but give us a little bit of information on what is SEO and maybe how people can start benefiting from using it.
Okay, so I will say I myself am no SEO expert, but just to give you the rundown of what it is it's search engine optimization. when you're focusing on SEO, whether it's your store or if it's your normal site, you can think of SEO in so many different ways, but a general idea is if you search a term in Google, Google has an algorithm that's going to rank different sites or different stores based on how they're performing and how their SEO is. So, and it kind of ranks them, and it decides how relevant and useful the website is to what the user's search query is. So it's really important, again, whether it's your store, your products, your site, that SEO is one of the top of mind things that you're thinking of as you're building out your pages, making sure you have keywords. There's a lot of keyword and SEO tools out there. I've seen a lot that people have been mentioning here in the comments. One person said that they switched from Yoast. Bluehost does offer Yoast for free on new installs, but outside of that, Yoast does have an SEO for beginners course that makes it really easy and really consumable to understand what SEO is and how you can apply that to your site or to your store. So, and I'll drop that in the answer here on the Q&A, the link to their training.
Awesome. Thank you, Jocelyn. And also thank you to everyone that have been asking these questions. I'm going to try to get through as many as we can, and we'll just keep going until we run out of time. The next question was from Michael, who's actually one of the first questions asked. And Jocelyn, I think you mentioned that you might have some things to add to this. His question is, if you only have an online store and no physical walk-up sales location, do you still charge sales tax?
Okay. Again, I'm not a tax professional, so we always say I got to put that out there.
Legal disclaimer: this is not legal advice.
To consult with somebody. But the answer to it honestly depends on the specific tax laws of what your state and country have. Generally, if you're located in a state or country that you do have sales tax, you may be required to charge it on the products that you sell, but it also depends on what those products are. So some states may also have exceptions and exemptions for small businesses with lower sales volumes. So really, it's important for you to research the tax laws and regulations before you can determine this. I know, so I'm in Utah again, and I know on our utah.gov, I think it's tax.utah.gov or something like that, where they have a lot of resources on understanding what those are. So this answer, I can't answer yes or no, because it does vary. And sometimes it might even vary if you're in a city, one city may differ to another of what they charge on. So It's really important to do your research on not only where you're selling from, but where you're selling to.
It's definitely an intriguing question, Michael, because if you build a product in one state and then your website is hosted in a different state and someone purchases it in a third state to ship to a fourth state, where did the transaction happen, right? It's a valid question, and I agree with Jocelyn. We just got to do a little bit of research, I think, just to make sure that you're covered for that. Next question, Katie Baker asked, can we limit sales to just the USA?
Yes. I had touched on that.
Go ahead,
and respond to that. Not only can you limit where you sell to, because you can sell to specific countries, you could also go one step further too, and you could also limit the countries that you ship to. It's just really all about kind of adjusting in the WooCommerce settings for whatever you need, but you can hone in on a specific demographic.
Yep. So you would just find that area when you're logged into your WP admin. It's under WooCommerce General, and it's under General Options. So if it's helpful, I can share my screen, but it should be there just on the first tab.
Okay, I'm trying to get through. And by the way, I tried to answer these, and Jocelyn and Braden also tried to answer some of these questions as they came through. So if you have more questions, or if you feel like maybe someone else might have asked a question you wanted to see the answer to, you can go under the Q&A tab, and you should be able to see the question and our typed answers there for a handful of them. Let's see. Katie Baker asked, is there a way to delete the blog stuff on my site? I don't want to have that show up to my customers. I can take that, or if one of you want to take it as well, I'm happy to let one of you take that. Braden, you look like you're typing, so I'll take that, and then Jocelyn, you can correct any erroneous things that I say. There's 100% a way, Katie, to delete the blog stuff on your site, but I think it just depends on how you want to set it up, how you want to organize it. So if you want to completely erase your website and just put a store in its place, that's for sure an option. If you want to, what we talked mostly about in this webinar was if you have an existing blog and you want to add the store functionality to that store or to that website, then you also have that as well. That is a little bit more complicated, obviously, because one is just deleting and building a new site. The adding that functionality, you have to get a little bit tricky with how you organize it, but it's still very possible to do that.
Yeah, and I will say that there may still be value in retaining your blog stuff, even if you don't want to have that show to your store, just because, again, it helps with SEO and it helps with kind of the history of your website. It's a hard question because is the blog stuff that you have related to your shop? Is it completely separate entities? Because if it's completely separate than your blog, then you may be better off having your own website for your shop, and setting up the process is going to be relatively the same. And there's also really easy ways to integrate the shop into your blog. So you can have your homepage that's like, see my most recent posts and also shop my products, right? They really can intertwine with each other. You could also build landing pages that you can use for social media or for email newsletters, so that when you send those to your customers or to your subscribers, then they are directed just to the shop, and you can create those to where there's no header or footer that are going to link them all throughout your site. So there's a lot of options. I think you really just need to reflect back on some of those questions that we went through before. What are your goals? What are you looking to achieve, and how you're going to achieve it?
Awesome. Thank you, Jocelyn. And we got time for maybe one or two questions left. And I also want to answer one or two questions. A few different people asked. Sandy said, I'm like the world's worst when it comes to setting up all this website stuff. Will Bluehost help if I get into trouble, if I can't get my store set up correctly? You made it look so simple, and I know when I go to set mine up, it will not go that smoothly. 100% agree with you, Sandy. It's like Murphy's Law, right? Whenever you watch the instructor do it, it's like, oh, it's so simple. But then when you go and do it, things look just a little bit different. They're a little bit harder. Bluehost does have a paid service where we can help with that. And that was another one of the questions I saw in there. If someone gets stuck, will Bluehost help get me out of it? Bluehost has a couple different resources, and I think we can actually move the slide towards that. The professional services might be the one that you would benefit from the most, Sandy. There is that blue sticky note at the top of the chat that will link you to a page for that. That is where they will walk. That's what Braden has done for a long time and has worked really, really closely with that team. They will basically walk you through how to configure your site and get a bunch of things up and running. Because that is one-on-one website building help, that is a paid service. We also do have Bluehost tech support. However, that we try to reserve that mostly for the technical issues that you might run into, like connecting the right ports or getting your email connected. So our tech support is not quite as deeply trained as far as like creating the WordPress websites or that aspect of it. That's our professional services are better suited for that. One other thing, and I think we have one or two more questions before we end. We always try to make these webinars helpful for you. We want to make sure that they're engaging and enlightening and educational for you. So if there's any topics, I see that SEO has become a fairly popular topic in the chat. If there's any other topics that you feel like you're getting stuck with or that you could really use a walkthrough like this, please drop them in the chat. We're always looking for the things that will help you the most. And we know that building a website can be overwhelming at times, and we want to be here to help you get through those sticky points. So drop that in that chat, and I'm going to give some people a few minutes to do that while I look for one or two other questions. Let's see what we have. For payment, okay, Braden's already answering. Braden, maybe you want to just answer this live. Edna Cohen, for payment methods, do you have PayPal access?
Yeah, great question. So with PayPal, the only way that WooCommerce is going to have access to any of these payment gateways is if you connect it. And for some of these payment gateways too, like PayPal, for instance, they might have certain parameters in which they require for you to be able to connect it to WooCommerce. Like PayPal, for example, you used to be able to just have like a free PayPal account and be able to connect it to your store. Now PayPal requires that you have a business profile, I believe, in order to be able to actually connect it to WooCommerce. So as long as you have a business profile for your PayPal account, from there, you could actually connect it in the native WooCommerce PayPal payment gateway, or there's also a Yith PayPal payment gateway. So there's a few different in-house solutions, but it just directly links to your PayPal. And then at that point, when people go to check out, they could select PayPal as an option. Or if you did PayPal and Stripe, customer can then, and mind you, linking the same process, customer can then, and upon checkout, they can choose either Stripe or PayPal, whatever works best for them, to go ahead and pay for the funds, and then those get transferred to you. So it's really all about what you need for your business. And if PayPal's that, you just got to make sure that you have a business profile. Once you have that, you can definitely link it to your store.
Okay, awesome. Last question, unless Jocelyn or Braden, you see one that you'd really like to answer before we go. This one is for Dennis. Dennis, you asked a fairly long and in-depth question. I'm not going to read the whole question, but I'm going to give you my understanding of the best answer. Basically, you said you're having some logic issues in creating classes. And classes are always tricky, right? Because you can have multiple people sign up for the right class. You mentioned scheduling conflicts. So those are always a little bit tricky. You mentioned that you were using a form, connecting that to WooCommerce. I think that's one way to do it, but you were running into some issues. I might recommend looking for a specific plugin. And I believe that Bluehost and Yith offers a specific scheduling plugin, and that allows you to set up a schedule and allows you to set how many people can join a class, whether or not the classes can overlap, all those things that you mentioned in your comment. By adding that plugin, I think that might alleviate a lot of the problems, and that does sync fairly well with WooCommerce, so you could incorporate that fairly easily. Okay. Anything else that either of you are really hoping to answer? We do have a bunch of questions. We are sadly 10 minutes over, but I love helping anyone that we can. I love answering these questions. I know that this is a valuable part of it as well. This is, if I'm being honest, this was a hard webinar for us to prepare for because there's so much information that we wanted to cover, and we wanted to make sure that all of you had an opportunity to get in and see what we were doing.
Yeah. I definitely can speed round a question or two too, if it helps.
Let's do it. Let's speed round, and let's end on the speed round.
I see that Patrick had asked about uploading images into the media section and having the uploader timeout. This is actually something that I've dealt with myself a handful of times until the point where I kind of got tired and searched for other avenues. Really, there's two methods to this. If you have access when you get into your hosting account, there's a file called PHP INI that's typically going to be in your file manager. It is going to be super technical, but there is some information online. And if your host allows you to edit some of those settings, you could edit max execution time, or you could actually just upload those images to a specific like media folder for your WooCommerce or your WordPress installation. And then there's a free plugin. It's called Add to Server. I don't know the developer off the top of my head, but I know it was a pretty popular one. And essentially, you just then pull in the images that already exist in your file manager from the server. And so you kind of lighten the load a little bit on that. And it's from there, you'll be able to get your images in there a lot quicker, a lot cleaner, and probably in a little bit more of an organized fashion. And then there was another one that I saw in here too. The blog on the website by Catherine. I feel it's crucial in reaching my ideal customer, but I have no idea how to do it. Do you have any info? So for this one on the blogging, it is going to be really tough to hone in on the audience that you're looking to kind of capture. The advice that I could give on this is you got to start somewhere. And from there, try to connect and network out. So this could be connecting your blog to some of the social channels or social profiles. Maybe if you're in Facebook groups or in some groups to where maybe you can link some of those blog posts that you feel will be relevant or helpful within some of those groups. That would help you start to build some of that audience. And then if you have like a newsletter element, it'll allow you to capture some of the emails if they give it to you. That way you can keep them up to date every time you release a new piece of content to keep them coming back. But if you're looking for a niche audience there, you're definitely going to want to do a little bit of legwork in, trying to tap into these specific groups and getting your brand out there.
Okay, awesome. Last question that I might have already answered, and so I apologize if I'm answering it twice. Ava asked if I need to get a separate hosting account for my store versus my blog. The answer is no, Ava. Specifically at Bluehost, one hosting account will allow you to build multiple websites. So you can have multiple websites on that one hosting account. And even on that one website, you can have different parts of your website. So like we were talking about, you can have a blog in one part and a store in a different part of the same website. And so I think we should end on that one. Thank you all so much for your participation. Huge thank you to Jocelyn and Braden for joining us today. I really appreciate all of your insights and the expertise that you brought. And thank you to the audience. We love it when you all engage with us and ask questions. It really helps us be able to help you better. And that's what our ultimate goal is to help you as you go through this website building process. So thank you all so much. We hope you tune in next time.
Thank you guys. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.